Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our online service for the Unitarian Church of Staten Island. Welcome from the comfort of your homes, from wherever you are and however you are feeling. Welcome again into this virtual space. I hope you find a way to get comfortable in your own body, to rest and relax, and enter into this time of community and connection. I'm the Reverend Emily DETAR BIRT, pronouns she, her, hers, and I'm speaking live from my apartment here in Marble Hill, Manhattan. Grateful to be with all of you this morning. It's been a year since we started this virtual space. A year of gathering together like this. And so I open our service with the opening reading I read during our first service we did virtually. Our first service last year on Sunday, March 15th. It's a reading by George Odell. We need one another. We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in trouble and afraid. We need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves. We need one another when we would accomplish some great purpose and cannot do it alone. We need one another in the hour of success when we look for someone to share our triumphs. We need one another in the hour of defeat when with encouragement we might endure and stand again. We need one another when we come to die and would have gentle hands prepare us for the journey. All our lives we are in need, and others are in need of us. So ends our reading for this morning. I now invite you to join me in saying the words for the chalice lighting this morning. We light this chalice. We light this chalice in the search for truth. In the spirit of love, we unite for worship and fellowship. And as an extension of our chalice lighting, I want to take a moment of silence to light these candles for some of the names of those who've been recently affected by police brutality. We light a candle for the life of Kurt Reinhold, for the life of Xavier Hill, and for the life of Frederick Cox. May these lights be a symbol of our commitment to continue the work of racial justice and to proclaim everywhere that Black lives do matter. A recording was stopped earlier this morning, so we do not have with us Gather the Spirit hymn. If you want to, please look on farfringe.com 347 Gather the Spirit and sing along. For now, we will go straight to our reading, The Pandemic.
Pandemic.
What if you thought of it as the Jews considered the Sabbath?
The most sacred of times.
Cease from travel.
Cease from buying and selling.
Give up just for now on trying to make the world different than it is.
Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you commit your life.
Center down.
And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart.
Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful.
You could hardly deny it now.
Know that our lives are in one another's hands.
Surely that has come clear.
do not reach out your hands, reach out your heart.
Reach out your words.
Reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch.
Promise this world your love, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, so long as we all shall live.
One year later. 1 year later, and I remember that week, that last week 1 year ago, when we tried so hard to figure out what to do. And then that decision, no more worship in the sanctuary. How do we Zoom? What does this mean? We stood on a great empty plain stretching far out in front of us, covered by thick fog. I'd like to say that fog is lifted. The plain has been explored, that we have made a perfect home here, but still we struggle to adapt to this new way of being. But let's just take a moment to acknowledge, even tentatively to celebrate, because it is, after all, 1 year later. And the sun still rises and the stars still shine, and you and I wake up each morning and mourn the loss of some and celebrate across the miles the presence of others. 1 year later, we'll never forget that week. That realization dawning upon us all that change was before us, that the unknown stretched out beyond where we could see. We'll never forget that. But let's take a moment to hold the knowledge that it is indeed 1 year later. 1 year later, and we are here, not on the other side of the unknown, but somewhere in a place called resilience, called discovery, called life.
One year later. Wow. Feels like an eternity. 1 year later, I've discovered how much I love people. My friends, my family, this congregation, how much capacity I have to love the whole of humanity and to recognize all the ways in which we are deeply connected and all the ways in which we need one another. I've discovered how deeply I can love myself. I've rediscovered love for nature and the beauty of our earth. 1 year later, I am grateful for all the ways people have been reaching out inside our community and beyond our walls to the wider community in times of extraordinary loss and suffering and injustice and violence. We're reaching out. We're allowing ourselves to be cracked open, our hearts to be broken into pieces only so we can reassemble them in new ways. I've been amazed at how adaptive we've been, how willing we've been to try new things, how gracious we are learning to be with one another when new things don't go well. 1 year later, I'm still navigating balancing a life when every single family member is at home all the time, with 2 kids in online school and 2 working parents, managing the gifts and challenges of virtual ministry and virtual worship, and being bolstered by all that is possible in this space, by the way in which we have seen growth and deeper connection that we haven't experienced before. 1 year later, I am grateful for this faith, for the way that it has moved alongside all of us and supported us with resources, with tools, and with the connection to one another, reminding us that we are greater than our individual congregations and the sum of our parts. I am grateful for all of the beautiful worship services we've been able to create and we've been able to experience that have been created by others. We are an imaginative, innovative, talented crew of people in this faith tradition, and I can't wait to see what comes next. And 1 year later, I have loved wearing the same pair of comfy yoga pants and slippers almost every day, even on Sundays.
A snapshot of ministry over the past year. 1 year later, for our world and our masks feel like a part of our bodies, like an arm or a foot, something we cannot imagine leaving the house without. If you were like me a year ago, you were constantly halfway to the grocery store or gas station before having to turn around, remembering you'd forgotten your mask. And now they're always either in our hands or pockets, always within arm's reach, in every direction. These masks serve as physical reminders for us, a way to say, I may not know you, but I care about you. I need you to survive. 1 year later for our community, and we stand on the precipice of extraordinary change. A year ago, we at Georgia Mountain's Unitarian Universalist Church were about to kick off our capital campaign to build a church of our dreams on the property we had just purchased. We had to postpone the campaign for 8 months, a difficult decision, but one that placed the needs of our community at the forefront. And now we may be a little behind our timeline, but we excitedly look towards that day next year when we can all be together again, this time inside our new building. 1 year later for me, and creation has become linked to isolation. I have created an entirely new human being, welcomed them into this world away from you. Those who have loved my children like their own, have rocked them to sleep on Sunday mornings, have ensured their souls were nurtured each week by a community of dear ones. My spirit aches to co-create music, services, and a life of fullness with you all in the same room. My spirit aches to link creation and connection again. 1 year later, and there have been innumerable highs and lows, challenges and victories, losses and gains. But here we are, shots in many of our arms, and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel 1 year later.
1 year later, I am weighed down by grief, by previously unimaginable loss of life, by gross injustice and unprecedented suffering. 1 year later, I am lifted up by the thousands of acts of kindness I have witnessed and millions more that I will never know about. 1 year later, I am shocked by the immensity of the human capacity for suffering. And I am heartened by the enormity of human compassion. 1 year later, I am more aware of just how damaging isolation can be, and just how deep the longing for connection runs. 1 year later, I am reminded of the story about how to find out whether what you need in a plank is a nail or a screw. Drive the nail in, the story goes. If it splits the plank, you know you need the screw. 1 year later, the plank is split and splintered as we put down the hammer and reach for the screwdriver, hoping and praying that it is not too late to begin again, hoping and praying that what's left is enough, hoping and praying that we will find a way to bind up the brokenhearted, to release the prisoners, to bring good news to the oppressed. 1 year later, bone-weary and tempest-tossed, shaken and stirred, distraught and despairing, I am somehow more than ever convinced of the life-giving power of community. For it is through the sweet, sustaining power of we that we discover again and again how blessings arise from the ashes and how strength is forged in flames. 1 year later, I say to you, to all, face what is real, grieve what is lost, and turn toward hope whenever and however you can. Peace.
1 year later. There's so much to say. I've learned that sometimes the most hopeful thing to do is to show up for other people, even when your heart is breaking or you're not sure what your next step is. I've learned that the process and the journey of faith takes all of the human experience, and that includes grief too. I've learned that grief, there's never too much of it. It shows us the depth of our love, even if the world wants us to move on. I've learned that even with incredible, inhumane realities among us, when things look bleak, human beings continue to show up for each other, to offer grace and love and mercy. I've learned how important compassion to ourselves and each other is. The compassion is not optional. It's what we all need to survive. I've learned that it's amazing all the things we can adapt to, how much we've changed and learned and grown together. I've learned how little I need to live. And I've learned just how much my life and my life's work exists only because of the precious work of community. My congregation has shown me what community can really look like, how to keep connected in times like these. And they have humbled me in more ways than I will ever have words for. Community and compassion. These are what keep us human, loving, and alive.
1 year later, I don't think many of us could have imagined living life this way for an entire year. Over the past year, we have reimagined almost every aspect of our lives, and particularly, we've reimagined together what it means to be in community, what it means to be in religious community with one another. It is something to celebrate that we are here and we are gathered, that we have adapted in ways we might never have dreamed possible. And it is something to mourn that we are not all here and we are not all gathered. Some congregations have lost many members in the last 12 months to the pandemic or to other causes. Some congregations have lost few, but all of us have been touched by loss. Family, friends, loved ones who are no longer with us the way we wish they could be. I am hopeful for a return to in-person gatherings, and I am hopeful that we remember how precious sharing space can be, how important a handshake, a hug, and singing together are. 1 year later, we know better the value of community because we've not let it go. We've made it as central to our lives as ever before.
1 year later, I love Maury Kettle more than I ever thought I could, for this has been a year when we need whatever warmth we can find. Need the reminder that we can find fellowship and help fill each other's cups in new and different ways. 1 year later, I have learned to go ahead and eat the chocolates I've saved in the kitchen cupboard, to go ahead and say the loving words on my heart and my mind, to watch whatever sings my heart quietly to rest, to not hoard joy but bring it out as I find it. 1 year later, I am more grateful than ever before for the sweet tang of winter oranges, shared now with my sweet 13-month-old as he sits next to me in his tall chair. Reminder that there is still so much beauty in the world, that somewhere still there are orange trees, green and fruitful. 1 year later, I rest in the comfort of my grandmother's chair. Let grief move through me without rushing away from it into busyness or distraction. Let the sadness and the worry travel through my life as I move through stillness and sorrow. 1 year later, I am dancing in the living room to songs my friends and dear ones have sung, holding on to love and joy and the practice of hope on days both dreary and bright with promise.
1 year later, what I know more than anything is the need for religious community, the purpose and power of religious community, and the strength of religious community. 1 year later, I've seen how we need this religious community and this faith more than I ever understood before. We've needed each other as we mourned the loss of life and the loss of connections, as we endured hardships, financial and personal. We've needed each other in practical ways, from our mask makers who supplied each other to those helping each other find vaccine appointments now. And we've needed this faith to give us strength, courage, and keep us connected to the force of love. 1 year later, I've seen the purpose and power of religious community and this faith. I've talked for decades about how churches can work together more, and this year we've worshiped with others, learned with others, done justice with others like never before. We've become more connected to those around us and to Unitarian Universalism. And within our own community, we've pulled together to make things possible that we would have never dreamed we'd be doing a year ago, and to envision from this time forward what might be possible in the future. 1 year later, I know the strength of religious community. I know that our building doesn't define us, beautiful though it may be, and that the church can withstand enormous hardship, that the religious community will find strength and resilience from new places, surprising places. I know we will find ways, we will always find ways to lift our voices together, to worship together, to do justice together, and to care for one another. Beloveds, 1 year later, this I know, we together will bend the arc of justice towards love. May it be so.
1 year later, I take nothing for granted. Not you, not me, not connection, not our determination to keep connected. Not time, whether there's too much of it or not enough. Not music, not singing, not the breath that makes the singing. Not the need to be together, nor the need for time alone. Not the beauty at hand in the smallest things just waiting for us to notice. Not the noticing, the power to let in those things we usually move too fast to find. not the learning that keeps trying to find me. If only I can be still, in my body, my mind, or my spirit. 1 year later, I take nothing for granted. Not you, not me, not connection, not singing, not breath, not time, not beauty, not learning, not noticing, not love. Not now, and not ever again.
Let's just take a deep breath as we reflect on all of those things that have been shared with us. But the sermon doesn't stop when ministers preach. As Unitarian Universalism, we know the lessons we learn are from each other. They're from you. So if you give me just a moment to set it up, I would like to ask you, sorry. All right. I would like you to share your responses. I'd like you, if you want, put it in the chat. You can also put it here for us. 1 second. Okay. Thank you for bearing with me as I continue to set this up for you. But I'd like you to share aloud, what are things that you've learned this past year? What are things that you feel you've learned from this year together? And by doing so, we're going to share this word cloud we're going to create as a community. Just 1 moment. So go ahead and put in the chat box if you want. What are the things that you've learned this year? Or you can unmute yourself, just say in a word or phrase, what is something you've learned this year? I've learned trust. I've learned about faith. What have you learned about? Understanding. Hope. Take one day at a time. Help and the helpers. That Black Lives Matter. What else? You can unmute yourself if you want, or you can type it in the chat. Growing vegetables. Resiliency. If I misspell words, please be patient. Both fragile and strong. Capacity for solitude. That small is beautiful. What is important is found at home. That people are grateful. They've learned perseverance. The importance of connection. To enjoy nature. That gratitude is wonderful and humbling. What else is on our hearts and minds? The importance of grandchildren. Absolutely. To walk in the neighborhood is a joy. The importance of family Zooms. Again, feel free to unmute yourself and share if you don't want to share in the chat. A time to truly see. As you can see shared on the screen, we've learned a lot about the importance, what is important to us. And we've also learned what is important about time. The importance of sleep. That home can be a world. That's a beautiful phrase. Home can be a world. To appreciate what we have. To practice solitude. What else? Community. Caring. The importance of love and family. You've learned about the death of a teacher. Or death the teacher from John Bostrom. What a beautiful phrase for that. Making food at home. The fragility of our world. I might not have gotten all of your words, but look at what we've learned together. Yes, Mary, heightened inequities, heightened inequities, where they are in our world, the injustice. Look at what we've learned together, that there are no borders. We've learned about veganism and cooking. We've learned about dedication. That life is short. Look at how beautiful all the things we've learned together. And look at the ones that stand out that we've shared. We've learned about home. We've learned about family, about what it means to enter solitude, about the world. Look at this beautiful collection of lessons we've gathered as a community. May we not forget these lessons. May we continue to remember all that we've shared together. And I encourage you to continue to share in the chat. Thank you for the lessons we've learned. May we carry these lessons and blessings with us as we enter into a new year, as we look towards the future of a time when we will be together in the same room again. May it be so. I now invite Carolyn to share our offertory this morning for reflection. I'm going to be sharing the offertory. Just remember to give to our PayPal link and remember to do other things to donate to us. Thank you. Carolyn, we can't hear your video. Sorry about that. Can you end the share and start it over again? Thank you so much.
you're on mute.
Don't go far.
Thank you so much for that beautiful, beautiful offertory, Carolyn. And now I will share my screen with our hymn. Give me one moment. Go. Please join us in singing Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea.
Thank you so much. I now invite Ruth Benson to extinguish our chalice this morning. Thank you, Ruth.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. For these we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
And for our final words, I will reflect on the benediction I gave on Sunday, March 15th, 2020, a year ago, which still rings true today. These words by Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. May it be so, and amen.